Hi, welcome to the Poor Man's Computer Repair Service. I'm your host, and before we get started on working on this, a brief background on me as to why I feel that I'm qualified to do this. I started in the with liking and working with electronics before eighth grade, which at that time was at about 12. My first computer was actually a Radio Shack TRS 80, given to me by my Uncle Verdell as a eighth grade graduation present. And his experience, well, first of all, he learned electronics from the United States Marine Corps in Nam. And then from there, he went on to become a hardware repair person for a company called Compaq before a certain company called HP took them over. And from there, from there he had until his eventual retirement, many moons ago. He knew what he knew. Basically, he knew what he was doing. I have self-taught myself BASIC. There's a language you ain't heard of, and God knows when. And when I went to high school, I learned more BASIC, which basically was refining what I have already learned self-taught through DTRS 80 manual. Thank you, Radio Shack, for coming up for being a forefather to what I know now. And then from there, after sitting out a year in 1982, that gives you roughly my age, I went into DeVry for computer programming. And then from there I learned. Well, actually, before that, I went to Olive Harvey, which is further down the street from where I live, and I learned word processing, which was actually Word Perfect. There's a program you ain't heard of, and God knows when. And I also learned DBase, which was one of the earlier spreadsheets before Microsoft dominated the market with their spreadsheet. And then from there, I went to DeVry, and I did 2 years. From there, I learned Pascal, and I also learned basic computer. And from there, what else? Psychology, business mathematics, and with the Pascal, I learned how to program with that. I stopped from there I stopped attending in my second year, which I regret, because from there I could have learned COBOL, which was before at that time there was the intent. If I had learned COBOL before, when I was learning it before the Y2K crash, I'd be a very rich man right about now, because most of the programs developed for businesses before Y2K were in COBOL. And unfortunately, at that time, nobody knew how to do it in COBOL. They actually, that's when C, which if I had stuck with DeVry, I would have learned the early basics of C. But long story short is that nobody, aside from the old professors and the old programmers, knew how to program in COBOL. Had I finished my second term completely, I would have had enough basics in COBOL to be a very rich man right now, because they were paying on upwards over $100 an hour for those old programmers to solve Y2K back in 2000. So long story short, had I finished, I would have been a very rich man. I could be retired by now, but oh well. I'm not crying about that. And to be perfectly honest with you, this is the system that you see here, I have rebuilt. This will be my 5th time rebuilding the system. The original computer was an old HP computer bought in 1994. Our dearly departed my mother, I should say my mother-in-law, but I consider her my mother, and my wife's mother invested $100 for us to get our first computer for our company, Kiss Me Comics. And the ironic part about it is, no sooner than we got this computer, within less than 5 months, with technology being the way it was already pretty much obsolete. And from that point forward, I said, never again are we going to get caught in this trap to where the main computer manufacturer stay in our pocket. I figured that it would come out somewhat smarter and somewhat cheaper to buy the parts necessary to upgrade our computer and stay ahead of current technology. Which was the basis for us to take this path. And with the knowledge that I had strictly from my uncle and looking straight into computer components, basically this is all that they do. That basically most of these computer makers nowadays, actually all they do is get everything prefabbed from China and slap their label on it. They know what they want, and they tell the computer manufacturer in China, here's what I want, XYZ with this processor, and they spit it out, and all they do is slap their label on it. And what we do is simply just beat them to the punch. And so with this latest upgrade comes, with the system that you see here is version 4, which consisted of a AMD processor. It's only a single core. Shows you how kind of old it is. But the features of it, had 3 gigabytes worth of RAM, and anywhere between 80 gig and up to a terabyte between 2 hard drives, depending on the setup. So what brought us forward to this revamp? Well, kind of 2 things. Actually 3 things. One, a RAM chip actually frying on us and actually going kaplawi for some strange reason. Kind of brought things to the fore. Secondly, trying to start this system up, it would not come all the way up. I wouldn't even come up to the BIOS screen for the motherboard, which could have been anywhere from the RAM chip frying or our cat getting to it. Long story short, love him dearly, but oh well. The third thing, which is the most important, kicking and screaming into Windows 7 or 8 do I go. Now that the security updates for Microsoft XP have stopped as of April, and there are online things that I like to do as far as online working from home and everything. And with the XP no longer being a valid operating system as far as security updates, kicking and screaming, do I go into Windows 7 or Windows 8? Much to my chagrin, because it's my personal, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this has just been my personal thing as to dealing with Windows. I've never been one of those people to go willy-nilly as soon as they release a new operating system, just for the sole fact of people seeing Microsoft as is the evil empire, and they take great pleasure as soon as Windows comes out with a brand new system, and Windows is dumb enough to sit up here and say, oh, it's unhackable, it's on this, it's on that, and they tear it to shreds. It's always been my preference to sit back and wait for the first couple of software updates, which in which case they call them service packs, to correct all the bugs that they didn't set the time out to fix while they were programming it, all because of making $1 instead of sitting back and doing legitimate testing to get it out. Henceforth, why Vista and Millennium were such flops when they first came out, because Microsoft knew that they really wanted to do Windows 7 and so on and so forth, but they were so busy worried about Apple getting an extra buck ahead of them, they rushed it out and it was imperfect. So henceforth, why I'm just now, and it caught me, I admit, kind of caught me with my pants down about doing this upgrade. But nonetheless, from here, it's a good thing because now with our company, Kiss Me Comics, doing, and we have set our eyes set for doing bigger and better things, animation, video gaming, and those are certain things that you just can't. And actually, as newer programs become available, you can't do newer programs on XP. They're more or less being developed for Windows 7 and Windows 8. So long story short, there's a couple of programs that we want to still keep on using. So from here, I have to upgrade to Windows 7 and Windows 8. Not to mention that now, you can't get these programs to work without having a multi-core system. The system in here that you see now is only one core. And for the most part, this system has served us well. It is a chain tech motherboard with an AMD processor and with 3 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM. And for the most part, I want to rebuild this system because it has served us so well. And for the most part, it was a very good system. So if anybody knows of where I can find an old Chain Tech, a brand new one, I don't want a used one, I want a brand new one. Well, let me know. And for all practical purposes, do not forget to subscribe to this, like us, and more importantly, take a look through our channel and see if there's if my voice sounds familiar. Probably to most, so maybe to most of you it won't, but we have done podcasts under Lip Service. We also have our YouTube channel doing other things for Lip Service. So from here, if you see something, I suggest that if you like this, take a look at our other things and say, and maybe that's something else you get into. But so from here, this is our patient. This here is the motherboard. Okay. And for those of you who are non-tech and non-geek, this is the innards of the computer. So from here, if I sound a little redundant, for those of you who already know this, fine. I'm doing this for those folks who don't know. Okay. So this is the inside of a computer, and I'm trying to say of any computer. Already I have removed the service panel of the computer. Okay. And from here, I'm going to quickly describe what you see. Right here, in this section right here, is the processor. On top right here is the fan. Right underneath it is the heatsink. And of course, underneath that is the processor. That is the brain of your computer. Okay. Now from here, see if I can't pan a little closer and down. There we go. That's a better shot. Right there. Right here. In this section right here, this is where the RAM chips are. And RAMs, for those of you who don't know, is random access memory. And this is what, between that and the processor, this is what salespeople try to cram down your throat as to what's better. Obviously, your processor, the faster it is and the more cores, the more it can do. A single core can only do so much with X amount of RAM. Obviously, back in my day, RAM was measured in kilobytes. Now all of a sudden, they're talking about gigabytes. That's how much things have changed and how things have evolved. So obviously, the more gigabytes of RAM you have, the more your processor can do. The more cores you have, is like actually having more than one processor. The more it can do. And the megahertz means at what frequency and how fast your processor can obviously operate. Okay, so from here, what is going to happen is this. So processor, are going to get totally swapped out for the upgraded system. Okay, and from here, but with this system, it's going to present a very interesting challenge because most of what's in here is going to be reused. This section right here is where the hard drive connects. I should say one of the DVDs. So what we're going to upgrade to is, at one point in time, this system was a dual DVD burner processor and everything else. So what we're going to upgrade to is multi-core, more gigabytes of RAM, but also we're going to recycle the old hardware components, mainly the DVD burners and the actual original hard drive, which is not in here because for protection's sake, it was removed out of the system before anything else could corrupt it. And also I wanted to test the system to make sure that it works. So from here, the next step is we're going to detach what's left out of here, because unfortunately these RAM chips that you see here will not be compatible. These RAM chips that you see here will not be compatible with the newer system. And you may ask what I'm going to do with this old system. Well, one, I have another tower, which is from the original computer. I would like to restore the system to be a secondary backup computer. Also, I'm a firm believer of people who actually do this for a living or as for a hobby. There are too many underserved people in our country who, and I'm talking about children, who definitely need a computer for school or whatever. I say this: if more people who like me donated their old pieces and just simply just built a PC with the operating system minus any personal information and donated it to a person of need or to a school of need, that would better serve the world versus dumping it off to to Best Buy or anything like that. And if I could find, I would love to start an organization that will do that, be it a computer or a PC, to give it to a family or to a child of need or to a school who actually needs a bunch of computers like that. What's wrong with that? You would get a tax deduction, or even if not, that should be where it should be put upon your heart. So from here, this is the first part of what we're doing. So now you see so now you see the patient here, and so from here, the next part is going to be actually start taking apart everything and getting underway to rebuilding this PC. Okay, so now we are ready to take this PC apart. Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm gonna get a flashlight so we can highlight what we're doing. Okay, so now we are going to start getting the motherboard out and everything here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the DVD burner from the motherboard. Okay, and that's going to be simply doing this. Okay, right now, right here is the DVD burner. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the power supply from the burner and from the main power. So just grab this and off it comes. And put that off to like that. Next we're going to take the data cable from this end, and and one thing before you do this, and I almost forgot, this is already off. Please unplug and make certain that your system is off. If you're not worried about the motherboard and everything, fine, but you should be worried about you and lighting up like a Christmas tree. Okay, and also doing damage to components that you may want to salvage. Okay, so from here, we're gonna make well. This system has been unplugged from the main system, and always make certain that in the back here, in the back system, that you turn it off, and it's usually right back here. I know you really can't see that because I'm keeping this in tune with the motherboard, but always in back of the power supply there is a main switch to turn it on and off. Okay, and so now we're getting ready to take the data cable out of the motherboard. Come on. Okay. And now it's out of, and now here's the cable. Now here's one thing I want to show you. With this, usually with these cables, it doesn't particularly matter which end is which unless you set your hard drive or burner and use the jumper plugs in the back of it to automatically dictate which is primary or master or secondary, and they call it a slave. Very racist term as far as I'm concerned, but oh well. Usually with these cables, black is primary. Gray, right here, is usually the secondary or the slave. Blue usually is shown here to for as a guide for you to put it where to put it into the motherboard. But if you don't have it set for anything, any end works. Usually though, it's been my experience, if you have one burner, the primary always goes here, motherboard goes here. This, if you don't have a secondary, this stays empty. Okay, so we put that off to the side. Next, we're going to take out the RAM chips, which are right here. I'll move this out the way just a little bit. There we go. Okay, and taking out the RAM chips is very easy. As you can see, there are two white clips on either side. And where's my little screwdriver? Here, screwdriver. Here, screwdriver. Ah, there you are. Okay. There are two white clips. Right here and right here. This one could handle up to 3 chips and could handle up to 3 gigabytes. Okay, so all we have to do now is pry these open, and the chip automatically just pops out. That's 2, and there's 3. Okay, and these just simply just slide out. And now these chips here are pretty much useless unless I decide to rebuild an older unless I reuse these in an older system or in a similar motherboard. The reason being is the newer motherboard will use DDR3 RAM chips. And unfortunately, with the newer motherboard, you cannot mix DDR1 or DDR2, which are older generation RAM chips with the new motherboard. You risk damaging the system. Okay. And once again, this right here is the fan for the heatsink, which is underneath, and which rests on top of the processor. Now, next, what we're going to do is now we're going to disconnect the actual power switches and reset button from the front of the computer to the motherboard. Okay, and right here is the wires that lead directly into, I know you can't see it from here, to the front of the computer to turn it on, which is for which everybody should automatically know what that means. Okay, yes, you still have a switch to turn on and turn off from the from the front of the computer and the power source. So we're gonna take these off. And these are a series of plugs right here. So from here we go. Now I'm doing this barehanded. I would suggest, if you're heavy-handed, I suggest that you would use a pair of needle nose pliers, or if you have a pair of forceps. Also, never, ever, 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 if you're disconnecting anything, never pull from the wires. Okay? Because always pull from the actual base. Why? Well, sometimes these will not come out right off the top with a gentle tug. Okay, and if you grab from the wire, you run the risk of pulling out the wire. And unless you already know, unless you are a super person and knows how to shove the wire back in there, guess what? You're SOL. Okay, in fact, I want to push this one in just a little bit to make sure it's in there. Alright, and now I'm going to slide that off. Or better, just slide it up. Okay. Now, there was a PCI board, because with this system, it only came with the two USB ports right here. Or actually, yeah, right here. I'm sorry, right here, which was all good and fine. But we run a scanner, scanner, printer, iPods, and stuff like that. Not to mention USB microphones or any other or cameras or USB cameras or anything like that. So for us, having just two slots was not good. So what we had was this little PCI slot here that actually has 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5th internal one. That's one of the reasons why I usually had the cover off, because 9 times out of 10, with this 5th one, I found out with our scanner, it worked best with it being directly plugged into this one plug. And so from there, you know, I was actually was opening up probably a whole can of worms for dust and other instances to where this board could have been jeopardized. Okay, but I intend to reuse this in the newer system. Even though with the newer motherboard, it has 6 USB ports, 2 USB 3.0 and 4 USB 2.0, and not to mention the 2 USB ports in front of this particular tower as well. I will have to plug those in to the new motherboard as well. So you probably say, well, it sounds like you have more than enough. Well, well, when you're talking about multiple devices running all at the same time, because with this newer system, I want to be able to use multiple camera shoots and shots. Because there's a program called Visual Communicator that it's a virtual TV studio, and I intend to use it to its fullest extent. And one of the good things about it was that if you had the right kind of system, you could have up to 3 cameras running at the same time and filming. So you could do camera switches and all that good kind of stuff. Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so now comes to removing the power plug-in, the power port from the power supply to the motherboard, which is this part right here. Now this is going to be tricky because it actually kind of clamps in. So here we go. And there's a little latch that you got to press in while you're pulling. There we go. Okay. Now, as you can see, this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Okay. 20 pin, which is standard for most PCs. Okay. This is the extra power supply, and now for some motherboards, you actually need to have more than you need to have them all. So it slides in like this, and there you go. It expands to 24. For others, this is an auxiliary, and you can plug it in there. It usually has its own little separate port, and I know for the newer motherboard, it actually has that port. Okay, and so now we can just pull that off. Just set it out to the side here. Now, I could and should remove the DVD burner, but since we're going to reuse this all to begin with, I feel that I'll leave it here unless I decide to clean up some of the gunk that's in here and some of the dust. Okay. Also, from here, now we can remove the motherboard. Now, usually, I will show you what to do. Okay. But in order to make things a little easier and to save a little bit of time, I've already removed the screws. Okay. And for this motherboard, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mounting holes. Okay, and it would be 8 screws, which I've already unscrewed, and so now we are ready to take the motherboard out. And there we go. Okay, once again, this is where your RAM chips went, right here. Your RAM chips went here. Your this slot here is for your video card, and this one actually did have a video card. I had a Asus GE7000, I do believe. Barely even got it. Another reason why I want to rebuild the system because I bought a brand new graphics card for this, so I could run Visual Communicator, and never got a chance to use it before this board went south. Okay. Here's your fan, heatsink, and processor. This is for your onboard graphics and bridge. It's a little dusty. Okay, turn it around here. Alright. I don't know if you can see this. Okay, here is your Ethernet cable. For those of you who plug in for a network or something like that, this is where you plug in. Here are your 2 USB ports. Here is your monitor hookup right here. Your standard monitor. This is your built-in sound card. Your jacks for recording, headphones, and auxiliary. For those of you who have hook-in MIDI, this is the part here. This here is your old parallel printer receptacle. For those of you who have an old Canon or old parallel port, that goes here. Here are your ports for your keyboard and for your mouse. Okay. This here is the power cord for the fan that will actually plug into the motherboard, and it would draw and it would use the power from the board to power the fan and keep your processor cool, and so it won't overheat and then destroy your board and you destroy all your work. Okay, so now we have removed this. I'm going to put this off to the side here. Okay, now from here, all that's left to do is to remove the little grill cover for the back of the PC. And that should just pop right on out. It'll probably take a little bit of doing. I always hated doing this. Come on. Blast your scuffers. I must have put this in here really good. Okay. Man overboard. Okay. Take you out. Okay, so now that we actually took the struggle, but as you can see now, we have the panel, the service panel removed from the back of the motherboard, and here's the piece right here. It actually is like a little template that you poke out, and it actually just pops in. It took a little bit to pop out. So from here, everything seems to be pretty okay. Seems to be a little dust and dirt and whatnot. And what you see here, right here, are the mounting screws for the motherboard. Okay, and some people will ask, well, why is that? Well, because, and I'll show you. Here is the back of the motherboard. Okay, it's all solid state, and those little white doohie's are actual connectors. So imagine what would happen if those connectors actually touched bare metal and created a circuit. You would fry the motherboard, and probably you would fry the motherboard. Okay, so those mounting brackets help keep the motherboard in place, obviously, and actually keep it off the metal bottom of the tower here. And as you can see, this is in pretty good shape. There's a lot of residue, a lot of dust and dirt I need to clean up. So from here, I got my work cut out for me. Now this here, that little bit right there, right here, that's on purpose. I used to use mounting clay for a cooling fan, and actually I actually used a cooling fan from a previous system to actually act as a external extra fan for the hard drives, and actually extra cooling. And I'm keeping that in for extra USB ports as needed. So from here, I'm going to stop. So that way I can use the time to actually give this a very good cleaning, vacuum, and give it a day or two to air dry to make certain that everything's all safe and sound. So the next time you tune in, we will actually start putting everything. We will start putting the new system together, and with the new motherboard, RAM chips, the whole 9 yards, and the challenges that comes to. So from here, this concludes this part 1 of the Poor Man's Computer Repair Shop. I am Rod Stats Jenkins, and don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, like us, and share it with your friends. I'm quite certain there'll be quite a few people that would probably like to know more. And feel free to ask down in the comments about questions and everything. I will respond if done professionally. Now, if you just want to sit up here and have a bitch fest or a rag fest, I will not respond, because I'm not saying that I'm a professional. I'm not saying I'm gonna end all be all and know everything. I've done this I've done this 5 times over. So yeah, I do know a little bit. And if I don't know, I will look it up and I will get back with you. Okay? So don't forget to like it. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have questions, I will answer them. Until then, so until next time.